You know that feeling when your thoughts wander while you wait for the loading bar of a video game? If we could define Spectra, it would sort of be like that. Brought to the Xbox One and PC by fledgling developer Gateway Interactive, this 8-bit styled arcade title tries to find a happy medium between rhythm and racing, but it ends up failing on both fronts, despite offering a short circuit of fun. At its core, this is a Twitch-timed movement-based racer, minus the race, as you're racing neither the clock nor any opponents. The idea is to steer a colorfully lit landcraft along a Tron-like independent ribbon in deep space, avoiding purple crystallized obstacles and collecting orange cubes for points. Achieving a high score is secondary. Your goal first and foremost is simply to finish each of the 10 challenging stages, and doing so is an achievement in itself. The game, among other similarities shared with musical rhythm-based games, rewards you for keeping a streak going. Keep accumulating points, don't smash into anything, and your score multiplier goes up and up. As soon as you crash, so do your points, unless you've cashed them in by going a few seconds without collecting any orange cubes. Spectra makes no illusions about its difficulty. Swerving between the crystal barriers takes well-timed slight taps of the trigger's control stick or arrow keys, and missing your mark could leave you flying off your little bit of highway and into the anti-gravitational vacuum below. The challenge here is never unfair or cheap. You'll always feel like your poorly timed strafes were to blame for your death. But on the flip side, it's also never rewarding. Once you complete a stage, you should feel a sense of accomplishment, especially as there are only as many levels in the game as one can count fingers on their hands. But we never found ourselves gratified, maybe because we became sullied by the fact that even the game seems to stop taking itself seriously. Quite simply, Spectra feels like a slap-together rush job. For one thing, there are only 10 stages available. Yeah, you can replay these stages again on a hardcore mode, but only a desperate optimist would count the extra mode as longevity. Not only that, but you'll find that each stage is basically, for all intents and purposes, a clone of the one prior. Every level follows the same turns, curves, and dips, and you'll retread the same exact ground over and over. The developer literally copied and pasted parts of each stage and rearranged or increased the number of obstacles in your path. This is the most disappointing part of this fast-paced obstacle course, as it cheats you out of even the few dollars that you'll invest in its game length. Even the visuals grow numbingly repetitive. You'd think that a game with only 10 levels would be able to instill some variety into those levels, especially considering that graphically we're dealing with geometric skeletons and color-induced polygons, not a fleshed-out world with all the lines filled in. Well, you're in for a rude awakening, as every single run in the game sports the same purple hues. Why Gateway couldn't have, at the very least, simply changed up the color scheme is beyond us. It's a glaring elephant-in-the-room flaw that makes an already repetitious game even more obviously recycled. The soundtrack seems to be one of the attempted selling points here, but it ends up coming off as a gimmick. While the synthesized 8-bit inspired tunes are the foot-tapping sort of catchy, created by the same artist responsible for Super Hexagon's thumping track, it would have been a much more polished, rewarding experience if the music was somehow rhythmically synchronized to the high-speed action. The electronic jams are clearly a focus of the package. They even go so far as to interrupt the music when you collide with an obstacle, much like rhythm giant Guitar Hero. So why not tailor the reflex-sensitive gameplay around that? Instead, Spectra feels like an instrument with too many appendages, and the result is a cacophonic prototype that went from early development right to digital distribution. When all is said and done, there are far more inventive Twitch games that offer more value. Spectra is admittedly a good jump-in, jump-out title akin to a stress ball. Sure, it's useful for 10 minutes after a rough day at the office, but beyond that, there are challenging games out there with far more substance and for less money. Even a plethora of mobile games come to mind. Ultimately, if you're really into this kind of reaction-based, speed up and don't slip up style of game, you'll get some enjoyment out of it. But a stronger interpersonal connection between the music and movement and a more creative level design would have greatly benefited this half-finished product.